I think probably one of the coolest investigations that we've been able to do in the last 10 years with crypto reality is Manatee Springs State Park. And today we're going to take a look at everything that we've accomplished there, and I'm going to tell you where and how we accomplished it. So stick around because, this is one of those things where you get into this subject and you don't realize the behaviors that these creatures have to engage in order to stay off human radar. And Manatee Springs is one of those places where you've got hundreds of people surrounding this little outflow. And this is a spring right here. The head of the spring is right here. There's railings all around it. And there's another spring in here over in this area that has algae all over it. It's like a blue hole kind of thing. But this is all freshwater outflow. This is freshwater outflow. Now, if we remember the video that I shot with the bass fishermen, I was standing on this dock right here and shooting into the cove, which is right here, which puts our boys that are on film embedded in the bank somewhere right in this area. You can see the docks here. The bass fishermen were working their way into this little cove, and those things were on these outcroppings, right? So we have a tree right here. Now, again, we're looking at cypress. We can see it's cypress. We've got the gray and the olive drab, and then we've got some other trees intermixed, ficus here and there or something. But this is thick cypress canopy. And you can see the stalks all through here, right? This is all cypress. And so it needs something to root in, so we've got an outcropping here. The likelihood is that it's one of these particular spots, and I'm betting it was this spot, that I actually filmed from over here and caught these guys on film. Certainly it was in this cove. Now, one of the things that I want to point out to you is that these coves exist everywhere. You can see a cove up in this area. Isn't it something that somehow, mysteriously, up towards the spring, there's an offshoot that's heading back into the forest? Does that sound familiar? That's what we had going on back in here. And we can see disturbance through this particular area. There's something going on in here. There's definitely hole. So what? Are they digging back in the forest? It's possible. Human beings occupy most of this habitat, with the exception of at night, because it's literally too spooky, because you can sense these guys are around. So if you're visiting, head on down to the Tour and Activities Pavilion. You can have lunch there or breakfast, and you can get set up. They got a nice barbecue going on, and right around lunchtime, you can't stand the smell anymore. It's barbecue chicken time. And so you head on down there, you have fun, you go swimming in the spring. This place has great activities. The hiking is insane. The deer are literally in the campgrounds walking around and walking up. In this particular area on this side is going to be one of the only available tenting areas, right? This particular section of the campground. And down in here, we've tracked these creatures and pulled hair samples. The creatures, it doesn't seem to matter where you camp within Manatee Springs. But I can tell you right now, this particular campground, whatever they're calling it, I can't remember what they call this one. It doesn't seem to have a label. This particular campground and then this particular campground. The forest all through this back area is loaded. And we have pulled dozens of clumps of hair from oak trees back in this area. You will have people come into your campsite at night from this forest. Whatever they are, they make sounds like this. That's exactly what they sound like outside your tent. We've had members campouts and had people in tents all in this whole area, and had these creatures at 4 o'clock in the morning coming into our campsite, throwing rocks on our tents, to the extent that our members were freaking out, man. I mean, turning lights on and all this stuff. Creatures hanging around the back here. We had one knock a tree down, and deer and all kinds of forest animals ran into our campsite while we were eating dinner. Tree was pushed down within, 35, 40 yards of the picnic table from this area here. So these campgrounds are an attraction. They're providing opportunities for these creatures to come in from all angles. They've got this embedded bank. We know that. We're showing you the footage. Here's the bank. Guess what? Ain't but a short walk to these campgrounds. You can see it plainly, right? We got the first one is like literally on their territory. It's on the cove right here. This is where we were talking about them being embedded in the bank. And what are the odds that it's like a straight walk right to the first garbage cans and things left out on the table, at which point they just kind of skirt it into the second campground area. You've got tents and stuff on this side also, and tents and stuff here and there. These are primitive campsites. People leave things on picnic tables. As I've stated, all 7 times we've camped at Manatee Springs, we've had people in our campsite at 3:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning. I had one guy come out of the forest mumbling to himself like this, and then take a pee right by my tent. And when I came out, he ran off into the forest in the palmettos. Like, this is a no-brainer. If you can set up a campsite, you'll catch the creatures in here. Surveil your own campsites when you're at Manatee Springs State Park. Now, the park and its hiking, as far as I know, it's still all open. But where I'd be paying close attention to is where these mysterious little feeders keep finding their way back into the forest with no elevation, right? Like, so yeah, we have a current flow, but there's no edge here to catch this current, grab it, and shoot it into the forest. This is a straight line. Straight lines develop. This flow has been coming through here for thousands of years, and it wore this particular part of the topography straight. There's no turn to catch currented water to force it into the woods. This is something that's created. These are great research spots, and it's hilarious because if you walk on this trail, you can walk all the way around the spring, and there's a trail running right alongside this. If you go over here in broad daylight, understand there are hominoids all in this area, regardless of the time of day. And all you need to do is pay close attention to what's going on around you. Remember, they're embedded in the environment. We are coexisting with these creatures. It's not an accident that they have found a freshwater outflow into this silt-filled tannic water reservoir, the Suwannee River, right? It's moving, but we have fresh water, clear fresh water. And as you get into this spring, you walk on this boardwalk, takes you all the way out to this dock. You'll see out here the water's filthy, and the closer you get to the spring, until it's basically crystal clear. And the spring itself is actually gorgeous. When we start looking at photos from this, man, it's crazy how beautiful this place is. And you can sit here and scroll through the pavilion where you can eat lunch. This is the type of habitat when the tide is up, because this is a tidal situation, and it comes in floods. That's one of the reasons you want to use the tide to your advantage when researching the creatures that would embed themselves in what would otherwise be a flooded bank. So if I'm going to be shooting in the morning, or I'd like to, I'm looking for the lower tides early in the morning, so I can plan my visit and my research around those lower tides. And we can see when the tide comes up, it floods well up above the spring into the cypress hammock that you'll be walking on a boardwalk above. Let's see if we can find a picture of the boardwalk here. Lots of pictures of the areas that you'll be shooting. This is the other side there, and you can see back into this cypress hammock. Paying attention to what's going on in areas like this is crucial. You can see the turtles here. Melanie and I have heard several creatures on several different trips within a stone's throw of this clear water just back in here, but they blend so well. You catch movement. You see them smacking at birds. We saw one bird get killed over there, and you have to have arms. I mean, you can believe what we were hearing. You can hear the creatures making noises. It's like people just ignore it. This is actually what the riverbank looks like in a lot of places, and this is ample opportunity for these creatures that embed themselves to observe human activity. Someone's photographing right here. We're looking at a photograph. He's on the other side of that camera. You can bet if hominoids are in this area, they're watching this guy with this camera. This is what they do. They evaluate their habitat, any threats, any opportunities. They're in full survival mode. Here's a look at what some of the campground, most of the campground looks like. And this is one of the larger oaks. If you're looking for hair samples, you're looking for these skinny oaks. These larger oaks are great, but the canopy has a tendency, and the acorns have a tendency to be up real high because the branches go up high. And that's not to say they can't reach them. But the younger saplings and the acorns that come on the younger ones, those are the ones we see being picked, and that's where we're gathering our hair samples. You got gift shop stuff and the gators. Here's the deer. They come in your campsite. This place is gorgeous. Don't let that fool you. There's a reason these deer prefer to be in your campsite. This place is off the chain, man. Now let's get into a little bit of what's going on the opposite bank. And of course, we're over here. We're on the dock because we're at Manatee Springs, right? But if you brought a boat, you're in luck. You can motor right across. The deal is, though, you don't want to motor right across until you've filmed it. You see, you want to film things because that's before you head over there or head in, because that's the opportunities when the creatures will be observing what you're going to do. These habitats are occupied and they're watching to see. If boats are coming this way, we can see in the footage where those creatures kind of squished and tucked back in. And the subsequent photos of when the boat arrives, you can see this on Patreon, the creatures are sucked back into the mud. You can still see plainly that they're there. But as the guys get out in front of them, mysteriously, they kind of move away from the bank out. It's like they sensed something was going on. It's pretty crazy, man. They got into this particular area, and as they got where these outcroppings were, naturally, we understand as fishermen that has an effect on the ground underwater. So the topography with outcroppings is changed. So we back our boat off so that we can fish the points coming out of these outcroppings. So we're seeing that in the fishermen's behavior. They were close and they were flipping brush up in here. And then they saw the points, and those points that you see above the water translate underwater. So they back their boat off so they can run crankbaits, worms, lizards, whatever they're doing on both sides of that outcropping, because underwater we're getting a little hill. So it made perfect sense to me, and also showed me that I had some experienced fishermen I was filming. They backed off and were fishing the points. At that point, they were in front of the creatures. Creatures were heavily embedded and pulled back in that mud. They were squinting and closing their eyes and putting their heads down face first into the dirt. They're hiding. I imagine when these guys got past, they came out for a look because there's no other threat in this area. The bass boat moved past. They start watching them in this direction, making sure they're not going to come back so that they have to hide again. It's interesting to me that this area, we filmed these creatures from this dock up in this area. We took the boardwalk and walked all the way down. You can follow the spring all the way down on a boardwalk. It's beautiful. Shooting into this area, Melanie and I found tracks in this area, TP structures, and caught creatures on film. Incidentally, where we caught the creatures on film is the exact same section. We hiked in, found teepees in this area, and caught creatures with like a blockade of brush and trees all put up in here. This is the campground. Again, like I said, they'll be around it. These other campgrounds, they're going to be around. This one, they're going to be around. It doesn't matter if there's a road coming through here. In darkness, these creatures move effortlessly. They can swim through all this bush relatively silent. So what you're hearing doesn't sound like, a 3,000 pound or 1,200 pound or whatever your imagination thinks a Bigfoot should weigh. It doesn't sound like that. We have busted these creatures once they got into position because we know they're going to do it. So we set bait. They came up in the middle of the night and we busted them. And when we started to chase them back into this forest, we stopped abruptly, caught one on film with a thermal over here, and you can hear the rest of them running away. You can hear them running away into the forest at night, and they're enormous. We caught the creatures on film in this area and got hair samples galore from this forest, from the juvenile oak trees. And that's the important thing. When you're shooting the river, as I stated, you're going to want to use the tide charts. Shooting first thing in the morning is your best bet. Creatures are fully aware that it's not busy with modern humans at that point, so they're more apt to be in these positions where you can shoot them. This entire side is valuable first thing in the morning. This side you walk on back this way, so you'd be shooting back this way towards this bend. If you've got a boat, this entire bank goes on for miles. In fact, it goes on all the way down to the ocean. And if you really look at what's going on this west side of the Suwannee River, this is all uncharted, pal. This is all, look at these little digbacks. Look at them. You can see them on the map. The river flows this way. This is back shooting into the forest. Come on, guys. Take your boat and beach it right there. If you got the balls, hike back into here. I guarantee you don't get this far before you start getting all kinds of noise and running off and possibly even rocks being thrown at you. Yes, there is an excuse for why these things are created when the current goes the opposite way. This is a backflow, guy. You know what I'm saying? Somebody dug this. This is what we're seeing, man. Look at this. Perfect. I mean, come on, man. And it's off a side. It's off a side, right? Yeah, the current's flowing this way and probably pushing a little bit right in here. But how smart is it to dig right here and take advantage of the fact that the current's wrapping? Right here, it wraps and it flows right into this area. These creatures are smart. Make no mistake. If you use your head and you recognize what can be natural and what can't be natural, it's very simple to find places on the Suwannee River and use Manatee Springs State Park Campground as your home base. So look, if you have any questions about a more detailed explanation of how to get this done, contact me at cryptoreality.us@gmail.com. I'd be happy to go over that with you. As far as cameras go, you can use all types here. This is one of those places that I do bring my zoom lens because I'll be on this dock shooting this bank. I picked up on some enormous stuff over here, but didn't have the long enough lens. Now I'm shooting with 1,000. I got 1,000 millimeters going here, man. So I'm gonna get this side with clarity next time I go there. And you can bet